Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we're going to be looking at Bitcoin, its valuations against the US dollar, in addition to discussing the current state of Bitcoin and its effects on the broader crypto market as a whole. In addition, we will be talking about the impending Bitcoin breakout. Now, obviously, there are two scenarios with this. Bitcoin breaks up and Bitcoin breaks down. Now, I do want to preface that because both are possible. I would contend, however, that one is more probable than the other. In short, I do think that it will break up to the upside rather than to the downside. So, let's take a look at Bitcoin at the on the weekly. I mean, it's currently trading at $54,000. It's down about 4% for today. It's down almost 7% for the week. We opened this week at $58,000 and has been trending down. However, when we look at the weekly, it is pretty clear that Bitcoin has been moving sideways for almost 3 months now. Next week would mark about 3 months because we entered in this region on the week of February 15th. We're currently, it is the 12th, I believe. Yeah, the 12th of May. And in 3 days, it will be, 3 months after. So we're looking about like the end of this week, early next week will be the 3 month mark. And because Bitcoin has been moving sideways, it does two things. One is to show that Bitcoin is not going anywhere. It's not crashing down. We're holding it as support. The market is healthy. It's structured. At the same time, though, Bitcoin's not doing anything. So traders, speculators, buyers will then move towards other markets. They will move towards the altcoin market. And this is why altcoins benefit from a sideways moving Bitcoin because that liquidity moves away from Bitcoin into altcoins. If we just stack the Bitcoin dominance chart on top of the Bitcoin USD chart, we can see quite clearly the first few weeks of a sideways moving Bitcoin, dominance stayed steady. It didn't increase or decrease. However, um, after 1 month, March 15th, we start trending down. And we've been trending down ever since. We were from 61% Bitcoin dominance down to 43.20% Bitcoin dominance. Um, and this happens every single time. We can look in 2020 when Bitcoin was moving sideways. We see that well, it's a logarithmic, so you don't necessarily see it that well. So I'll just increase there we go. So we see a sideways moving Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin dominance holds steady. And then on June 29th, the week of June 29th, Bitcoin's still moving sideways, but alts start gaining the momentum. And so we see that happening here. We see that happening last year, and we see it happening every cycle. Altcoins take full advantage or really like when Bitcoin's moving sideways. It holds steady. It's not dropping. And so speculators will speculate somewhere else. You can see it from the altcoins that you hold. I mean, Uniswap has gone parabolic. Cardano went parabolic earlier. Chainlink, VeChain, name any cryptocurrency altcoin, and it's most likely outpaced Bitcoin in this period. If it isn't, I strongly suggest you to look into yourself in the mirror if it's worth holding it. Um, but that is the current state of the altcoin market. We saw that altcoins bounced and drove up the valuations of the altcoin market. We then saw that liquidity flow back into Ethereum. And now we see Ethereum rising up and really challenging the Bitcoin dominance. And the third part that which hasn't happened yet, but I would contend it will, is that liquidity from Ethereum, the liquidity from the altcoins are going to flow back into Bitcoin. The question is, we don't necessarily know when, but there are tools that we can use, which I will go over in this video, that help me illustrate my theory of an impending Bitcoin breakout. In that the likely scenario would be that Bitcoin goes up, alts bleed against Bitcoin. So not necessarily their US dollar valuation, I'm talking about their Bitcoin ratio will likely go down. And this is what we'll be discussing. So the first one to take a look at is the 20-week moving average. The 20-week moving average has proven to be a support during a bull market for Bitcoin, when we hold the 20-week moving average, we we explode. And this is just one example. We can go back to 2017 and see that happening as well. Every single time that we held, we rebounded and went up to higher highs, higher high, higher high, so on and so forth. Even in the previous cycle, we didn't quite hold the 20-week, but we rebounded pretty quickly to get up above it. But even here in 2012, holding the 20-week, holding the 20-week, going out the 20-week, making a new higher high. So the 20-week moving average is pretty integral to the bull market for Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin's in a bull market, that's what we want. That altcoins benefit from that. And Bitcoin benefits from it as well. So we are nearing the 20-week moving average. The 20-week moving average, ever since February, has continued to go up despite Bitcoin not going up, obviously because it's a lagging indicator of itself. So currently right now, the 20-week moving average is at 48,945. We are about 11% above the 20-week moving average. 3 weeks ago in April, we were about 11.86. I'm going to contend that we are going to be touching the 20-week moving average fairly soon. I'm not going to say it's this week or next week, but soon. And that is the case for that. The second thing is the Bollinger Bands. I don't necessarily talk about the Bollinger Bands that often. However, they can indicate when Bitcoin's moving sideways where the most likely moves are going to be. So, so we do see the width of the Bollinger Bands coming down. So like, for example, like the width that I'm talking about is from the upper band to the lower band, that distance there. This indicator tool just creates like measures it for me because that's pretty much what I'm looking at. Because when the Bollinger Band widths subside, we see a breakout. And we're currently on the downtrend. Now, where this downtrend will stop is up to question, but we can look here to see that it kind of bottoms out for at least for ever since 2019 at around 0.39. Okay, and we're currently at 0.80. We see it kind of bottom out there. We can kind of extend this out and see that we do see it generally comes down to this band many a time, but it sometimes does go lower. So we can even just extend this to here. So when the Bollinger Band's width come in between the two white lines, odds are a breakout is imminent. Now, obviously, we're outside of that, so it's not technically imminent, but it's something to keep in mind. It's something to check upon week over week over week to see where we are. We are at the opening on Monday, where we're at the close on Monday, on Sunday, where we are at. It's imperative to keep track of this as well as where we are in relation to the 20-week moving average. The third, so actually, just expanding on this, the Bollinger Bands also don't indicate if it's going to go up or down. It just means that a breakout is coming. And so again, this doesn't stipulate necessarily that a Bitcoin's going to go up. It just means that a breakout is imminent. The 20-week moving average is more of an insinuation that we're going to go up. As long as we hold the 20-week moving average, we should see a pretty decent rebound of Bitcoin. Maybe not on the span of what we saw here, but a rebound nonetheless. It'll bounce pretty hard, and in that time, altcoins will tend to be outpaced by Bitcoin, i.e., their Bitcoin ratios. So the Ether Bitcoin ratio will go down, the Cardano Bitcoin ratio will go down, etc. The third thing to take a look at is the RSI. Now, the RSI, I mainly look at the weekly and the monthly. I do not use them on the hourly. So when we look at the monthly, we see that there's a pretty clear RSI top at around 96 or so, around this level. You can make a little band of it because the July 2017 peak wasn't as high, and so you can make it into a band. But regardless, this is the general idea, right? we did not get to that level yet. So I would not say that this is a market cycle top, nor is it a double peak RSI. Like this isn't the first peak of the RSI. I would contend that I mean it could. We simply don't know, but I would contend that it would have to have reached to the 96 or close to it in order for me to be convinced that it is a double peak RSI, much like it happened the last two times. Having said that, when we look on the weekly, it kind of gives us a little bit more short term notion on the RSI. So we almost peaked at it, right? When we look at the RSI, but there is some leeway, right? So even the 2017 peak didn't go that high. In fact, that we went over it. We went as high as almost uh, 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 2013. But that's not necessarily what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at is the trend down. So obviously you can see we're trending down on the RSI. Um, so we're leaving the overbought territory and coming back into the fold of more reasonable valuations on the RSI. However, when we reference potentially bottoms on the RSI, we can look at, say, the cycles and see. So I'll be referencing 2016, 2017, that cycle, and we can even extend it far into 2013. And notice that this is a pretty impressive line to hold as support. We held it as support in this cycle already in 2020. When we look at, say, these bottoms here, we bottomed out when we moved sideways in the summer of 2020, as well as in August, which resulted in the boom. Uh, and when we look at the 2017, we can correspond to the touches of the 20-week moving average, right? The touches of the 20-week moving average to the bottoms of the RSI. And we can line it up with this line to see that every single time Bitcoin dropped down to the 20-week moving average, we tend to drop to this line on the RSI. We can also see that here in 2013 and in 2012. You can see the bounces off of the 20-week moving average correspond to the drop to around this level on the line. You can make it into a band to give it a little bit more leeway, a little bit more slack, which is fair. But the general idea is that around this area is when Bitcoin bounces off the 20-week moving average and we go back up to overbought territory on the RSI. It's when we get to the 80s and the 70s, the 80s, and potentially the 90s when it's a market cycle top. We are currently at 60.66. This line is drawn out at 53. You can round it up to 55 maybe, and as low as maybe 50, and that would be kind of your band. But we are heading towards that line as we speak on the RSI. And would you know it, we're not too far from the line. We're also not too far from the 20-week moving average. So having said that, the RSI indicates that we're trending down. The Bitcoin price indicates that we're trending down to the 20-week moving average. It kind of insinuates that we're kind of flirting with it, right? We're not there yet, but we're pretty close. Is it in? Is it out? We're playing that game with Bitcoin's playing that game right now. And thirdly, the Bollinger Bands are indicating that a breakout is soon. We are trending down. The width is getting tighter. The Bollinger Bands are getting tighter, insinuating a breakout is on its way. And so when we grab all those indicators, we think, well, at this point, do we think that Bitcoin is going to break up or down? Well, it entirely depends on the 20-week moving average, right? If we just floor down and break through the 20-week moving average to the downside in a pretty horrific manner, I would immediately change my tune. However, I would assume that even if we broke the 20-week moving average by a little bit, kind of like what we saw in 2013, I would say that I'm still okay with that. We were like about maybe 17% below the 20-week moving average at this time, which is not terrible and nothing to be too overtly concerned about. Which leads me to think that that Bitcoin will rebound and Bitcoin will um, create new highs. And obviously those highs will be a lot higher, would be higher than 50K. We could be talking about $70,000, $80,000 Bitcoin. And so that's essentially my theory. We talk about altcoins ad absurdum for the past 2 months, past 3 months. I briefly talk about Bitcoin. I want to bring Bitcoin back into the fold and make the focus of attention now onto Bitcoin. Ethereum, altcoins have had their run. It is time, I think, well, at least for me, this is what I'm doing. I am consolidating my positions. I've been consolidating my positions for months back into Bitcoin, back into Ethereum, and Ethereum back into Bitcoin. But ultimately, all roads lead back into Bitcoin in my portfolio. And in the anticipation of this, in the anticipation that Bitcoin's going to come back to the 20-week moving average, it will rebound, it'll create a new higher high. That is my theory. And that's why I always suggest, and this is not financial advice, but this is what when I suggest that Bitcoin should be the largest portion of your portfolio, because not only does you want to be a part of these Bitcoin swings, being majority in Bitcoin kind of reduces your risk. Bitcoin is down 4% against the US dollar. However, Chainlink's down 6%, right? Litecoin is down 6%. XRP is down 4.75. It's bleeding more than Bitcoin. We see that altcoins bleed harder than Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin reduces your risk. But also when Bitcoin rallies, it rallies real hard. Well, guess what? Altcoins are going to be left in the dust. All that liquidity flows back into Bitcoin, and you'd be hoping that you had more Bitcoin in your portfolio. But do what you will. It's very hard. It's difficult for me to make a convincing argument for people who are really invested into altcoins at this moment, because altcoins have been doing very well. It's very hard to tell people, hey, you should be looking at Bitcoin when Ethereum is doing this, right? But that is just how I see it. When altcoins began to be extremely overvalued, when we look at the Bitcoin dominance and we're now in the 40s, and we're trending to the highest points of altcoin dominance that we haven't seen since 2018, 2018, then then we then it really makes me think, okay, well, what's Bitcoin doing? And right now, Bitcoin is moving sideways. It's building support. It's building a base. The RSI is coming down. It's coming down to historical levels where it tends to bounce. We're heading back towards the 20-week moving average, where in a bull market we bounce from and create a higher high. These things is what I see when I look at altcoins and they're rallying like crazy. We're at historic levels on altcoin dominance, and then it leads me to think, well, what Bitcoin is doing. And Bitcoin's doing this. And this is what I want you guys to be paying somewhat attention to. Even if you're heavily invested in altcoins, I get it. I am too. But whether we like it or not, Bitcoin is the market mover. When it moves, the altcoin market will tend to follow and tend to be reactionary towards that move in a negative way. Yes, if Bitcoin rallies up, odds are your US dollar valuations on your alts will be fine. However, their Bitcoin ratios will bleed, will go down. And what does that mean? Well, Bitcoin is now outpacing altcoins, at least for the time being. Anyway, I'll wrap it up for there. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.